USWNT Naeher the hero, Williams takes her chance in Olympic quarter-final win versus Dutch. USWNT is in the semi-finals of the Tokyo Olympics after beating the Netherlands in a thrilling back-and-forth affair that eventually went to penalty kicks. Report: USWNT reach Olympic semi-finals with shootout win. Alyssa Naeher has saved us so many times. If it weren't for goalkeeper Alyssa Naeher, the USWNT would not be heading to the Final Four of the Olympic women's football tournament. The 33-year-old stepped up during regulation in the 81st minute to deny a poorly taken Lieke Martens penalty, but the penalty shootout was where Naeher really shined. She plucked a shot from the lethal Miedema out of the air on the first kick, immediately giving the USWNT the upper hand, and then she saved the Netherlands' fourth kick, from defender Anja Noen, to clinch the win. After all, Naeher has often played in the shadow of Hope Solo and Brianna Scurry, the two USWNT goalkeepers who came before her, each of them earning a place in the conversation of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. Naeher is also just a different goalkeeper from her predecessors, not fitting the mold of the quintessential USWNT goalkeeper from years past. To take a penalty from them in the run of play was huge, but then to give us two in the shootout, it just made it so easy for us, Megan Rapinoe said. If there was a deficiency throughout the group stage, it was an intangible that couldn't be measured on a stat sheet. The USWNT just didn't look like itself. It was apparent from the opening whistle. The Americans immediately pressed and won the ball, setting a tone that they weren't going to make it easy for the Netherlands. Even as they looked tired and struggled to contain the Netherlands' varied attacking threats at times, they kept coming back again and again. Alex Morgan told reporters afterward that if the game had gone on just 5 minutes longer, she was sure the USWNT would have won without needing penalty kicks. It might be a bit of a concern that the USWNT was whistled offside on 4 separate goals against the Dutch, making for 9 would-be goals called back for the Americans in this Olympics. Morgan had said the Olympics would really start once the knockout stage began, and Rapinoe seemed to share that sentiment Friday, framing the USWNT's bounce back to form as inevitable. Naeher was superb in stopping 3 penalties over the 120 minutes, including 2 in the shootout, in a game that might be her defining performance for the USWNT. Williams ended up being the engine of the USWNT's attack against the Netherlands, chasing down balls and repeatedly offering good service. So, then, it was fitting that she played a role in both USWNT goals. Yet her defensive work rate was just as important, which made it awfully curious when Andonovski took Williams out in the 57th minute, an early stage to dip into substitutions with the possibility of extra time looming, and replaced her with Kristen Press. At the time Williams came off the field, she was the USWNT's best player on the front line. 7 minutes later, Andonovski took off Tobin Heath, who was also giving the Dutch defense some trouble, for Rapinoe. Before the match even hit the 90-minute mark, Press and Rapinoe looked exhausted, unable to help press or track back and defend, and the Netherlands grew increasingly dangerous. Even though the team is through to the semi-finals, it has to be a growing concern that the USWNT backline has left so many gaps and that one of the USWNT's go-to centre-backs has repeatedly been involved.